right, guys, what about some predictions? Okay, you guys have been around for a long time. You've seen this market go in a lot of different directions. Where are we going from here? Silence, huh?
Tune in next week when
Exactly.
No, where do you see it really? Seriously, where do you see things evolving? Do you see it going down the blockchain path, identity going down the blockchain path? Obviously, self-sovereign ID is going to play a part in the future. To what degree in the U.S. we'll see, but really love to hear your input.
I mean, hopefully we get out of talking about the plumbing and the tools and start talking about how the tools actually do things, solve real problems. Because a lot of the early years in identity were very much plumbing obsessed. Whether it was protocols, whether it was implementation patterns, which were, constrained in different ways because of on-prem computing and those other things. Like there's a lot of plumbing. And I just wrote about this actually. And an industry luminary, Pam Dingle, once said, look, we have just now started to get enough tools where we can solve problems, right? We've built the tooling we need to actually go do stuff now. And I really hope that's true because, giving you an example, I was talking about this concept of identity relationship metadata and management, and just talking about how, among other things, an implementation would be a graph database is a really interesting way to store information about relationship between entities and all these other things that you could do. And people sort of took that and ran with graph databases are the identity future. I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care what your backend is implemented in. It's more about what can this sort of concept do? I don't care about the implementation details. It's actually moot. So I really hope from the industry's own perspective, and I think this is happening because identity is becoming more mainstream in a lot of ways, that we're moving from tools and plumbing to actually problem solving, actually delivering value versus being so obsessed with how the sausage gets made.
I don't know. I become more of a skeptic in my old age, and I still.
Holy crap, Gerry! What's that?
But I think we're still obsessed with some of the tooling, certainly when it comes to verified credentials and digital wallets and decentralized ID. And Adam, you and I talked about this on our recent podcast a little bit. I'm not sure that we're thinking through all of the potential negative side effects, or at least not positive side effects. I think we, beat the drum of, hey, better privacy, hey, limited disclosure of data, and yes, there is that, but I'm not sure if that. I know that's not the whole story. So I think we're still obsessed about the technology in many ways, and we're not telling the full. Okay, these are the good things that could happen, but these are also where it could go a little bit sideways, and we need to be aware of that. And without that open conversation, we're just, blundering straight ahead into some unknown result.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned wallets, for example, and it's funny because I was at a conference where they were talking about wallets a lot, and well, IIW. So you were there, Gerry, and and Ian wasn't. I think so. You were doing so. You were speaking, I think, in Washington D.C. That
I was.
Yeah. So, but the thing is that that's not really a new idea. I mean, it feels like we
control card.
We keep getting. It's like we're so fascinated by identification, right? ID cards and things like this, and it's not really that. I think you need to frame the problem a little differently. Like Ian mentioned, relationships, for example, and how do you build trust into relationships, right? Yeah, I guess some of it, I suppose, an ID is important for that. But I don't understand the fixation on this tired idea in a way, right? Like we need a couple of good new ideas, a fresh approach to understanding how to improve trust. We especially need it now with AI bots out there doing whatever they want.
True.
Yeah.
So
if we don't
where
get
do you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if we don't get to recognition over this authentication thing, we're never really going to progress to something more useful. Like we're so wrapped around the authentication axle,
Yeah.
and we're so not making the kinds of progress we need to from a recognition perspective. Because once you get into whatever you want to call them, I refer to them as counselors or smart agents or what have you, like that they are recognized as acting on my behalf by other services, and that can actually be proved potentially cryptographically. Hey, fantastic. But like, as opposed to, oh no, this thing is actually just going to replay my password into a field and then screen scrape. Like, we got to get out of that. We got to move towards recognition a lot faster.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was going to ask was, where do you see the gaps right now in the industry where either a product could fill or a standard could fill?
So here's a funny thing. Not answering the question, where's it going? Like there are still so many of these, like we have some of the tools, but not all the tools. Here's a good example. Someone asked me last week, is there a good standard for representing groups and their entitlements in a way that could be universally looked up and referred to? And I'm like, kind of skim-ish. But this is something that goes all the way back to like SPML days that still doesn't really exist in its own way, right? It's implied in provisioning standards, for example. Like there's some funny gaps where you're like, maybe we should go fill like these obvious potholes in because it might unlock some things. And then at the same time, there's like, everyone's standards are awesome. That's why everyone has one. And, we see this sort of playing out in credential formats and some of these other things that like, gosh, I wish we'd gotten a round wheel, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, I've been doing some standards work in authorization for the last little while, starting with, the IDQL format and hex open source, but now we're part of a group that started a new working group over at OpenID Foundation called AuthZen. And, we've got a bunch of authorization products out there that are quite similar in many ways, but don't interoperate at all with each other. So we're looking to fill some of those gaps, some of those seams, and can we improve interoperability and, increase adoption in the industry? So that's brand new work that's just getting going. So I'm pretty excited to be part of that.
What would you say, so it's going to be, we'll do like one of each. What would you say would be one thing that an enterprise could do, just in their identity access landscape as a whole, that would make their lives a million times easier than just what people generally do now? I mean, I have my own obvious personal ideas, but I would like to hear more about what do you think they could do to be like, hey, look, if you did this one thing, life becomes easier because of all these other options kind of line up.
Aside from hiring Nidus, that is. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
I don't know, Mike, what are you advising clients to do these days?
Well, it's what Ian was saying earlier is that we have clients. I mean, it's that 10 years ahead and 10 years look behind, and we sort of need to cover really all of those things. And because the good news is that there are, at least for the 10 years behind look back, there are some very solid things that you can do that we know work, right, and what to avoid. So, but looking ahead a little bit, I think that it's so spread out. Identities become so distributed that when companies are trying to get, for example, workers from another company who were trained by another company, into their facility, and they want to do that in real time at a massive scale, right? So in other words, somebody can show up to work on that day and you didn't pre-provision anything, but the trust mechanism works out really well so that you don't have to issue them that ID, and the authorization can come from another source, and all that just sort of meets up, dynamically. We need that still, and it's not something you can go out and buy right now. But I think that I've been encouraging people who are at the forefront of adoption of that technology, that type of technology, to attend things like IAW and to participate in built in bringing the use cases and helping engineers understand what it is they're trying to accomplish with these things. So I would say that if I had to shorten it down to something, I would say, yeah, get involved in those standards bodies and those conferences that are trying to get that stuff done and bring some kind of realism, some practical, real world use cases. That would be very helpful.
Okay. Gerry?
Yeah, while Mike was talking there, I was thinking of something that everybody has some kind of legacy tooling that they're still managing, and they want to migrate to something newer for whatever reason, cost, features, whatever the case might be. I don't think we plan enough thinking about, okay, I want to migrate to something X. Well, in 5 years or some number of years, I'm going to need to go from there to somewhere else. So can I do this? Can I make choices that give me flexibility in the future that maybe I don't have now? And that's sort of a broad statement, but I don't think we typically think about that as an industry. It's okay, here's my RFP. These are the things I need in this product I want to select. I don't know that there's enough vision to the future of, okay, I know at some point I'm going to need to migrate off this, because whatever technology I'm going to buy that's state of the art today will not be, in 5 years or thereabouts.
Yeah, and I think that's where, or like that, for me, that's why I keep recommending an orchestration layer to people nowadays. It's like, man, you need that just for like to introduce a flexibility into your total infrastructure, so you can swap things in and out as things come, because it's going to change. So I'd have clients telling me, it's like, oh, no, there's one that we're buying now that we're switching from that we've only been on for 3 years. This is gonna be the last time we're doing it. It's like, okay.
Lies we knew we were telling.
Ian, what do you think? Would you say from your standpoint?
Look, I'm gonna go super tactical, right? I'm gonna do like the absolute mom and apple pie on this one, which is like, for workforce identity, deploy unphishable authentication. Go do it. There's no reason not to. Go do it. And for your consumer-facing or citizen-facing services, get ready to deploy passkey in late 24, early 25. Like, do those things and drop SMS OTP like a hot potato. Like, do the basics. That feels like the basics.
Okay, so for on the workforce side, any examples?
Any examples of like how to do it or who to do it?
No, like product. So you're saying you want to have like FIDO keys or like YubiKey type stuff. Like when you say anti-phishing authentication.
Yeah, so like you look at like unphishable, like doing FIDO keys, hardware keys, great.
Okay.
But there's a lot of pluses, there's a lot of minuses. On the software side, passkey for enterprise, maybe not quite there yet from an assurance perspective because of a variety of reasons. There are vendor alternatives. For example, Beyond ID's got a really interesting solution to do some of the same things and also give you FIDO. I think the thing you got to be prepared for is that there will always be a use case you did not foresee when you started the program, no matter what it is, kind of program it is. There's always going to be one, right? And so you've got to have and especially in workforce, well, sorry, no, I'm going to scratch that statement. It's regardless of workforce or consumer, is you've got to have the support and flexibility to actually meet that use case halfway, right? Meet whatever that is, whether it's third-party call center or it's a demographic that you thought you could reach with a kind of technology and realize actually what you selected was exclusionary. Passkeys right now are exclusionary. You need $1,000 supercomputer that fits in your pocket. So you've got to be really cognizant of that and have the support to meet whatever that use case is. Make motions towards it, but like know you're going to have something that's going to work, not for everyone, but for a lot of things, and then have to figure out the rest.